Hi everyone, my name is Ian, Queen Ian, whichever one you would like to use. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite stories thus far, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, the story Their Eyes Were Watching God is a fiction novel, and it takes place in the late 1800s, presumably the 1890s. And we get to see how people who are newly free enslaved African Americans and people of the new generation of those people get to function throughout life and get a feel of who they are, and just, getting more attached to their individuality and throughout the text. So it mainly spans to our main character, who is Janny. Janny is, a slightly passing African American woman who is, living in this new world of, being this free African-American woman, trying to find her way through love and going through trials and error of partners, and thinking, like, is this really how her life ends? Is this her goal in life, is to find love? And she goes through many, I would say many myself, when it comes to three long relationships such as the one she's had with these men. And it turns out that through each one she gains more and more peace of mind of individuality. I have to say that I relate with Janny, especially throughout most of the chapters. Specifically, I look at chapter 17 and 18 the most, because that is when the storm happens. One of the main things we talk about in class, of course. And it just gives me more of a mind that in order for you to really, really take a grasp on understanding situations, sometimes you have to let that storm pour in. Sometimes you have to let that storm pass, wash away the dirtiness, the filthiness that, clouds the mind. And, and sometimes, things grow back and the answers are revealed once the storm passes. And that's kind of what I see, especially in chapters 17 and 18. And I live for the fact that Mrs. Hurston, she gives the character such a relatable vibe. Because each one of us is going through trials and errors of what is right for us. We are trying to understand what is our big goal, what is our dream. Especially for like Janny, when she is trying to understand what is really right for her. But, Nanny, the person who raised her, due to her, parents, not being at avail, tend to, tell her that, hey, you need to marry this. You need to marry a man of high status. You need to go on, marry someone of high wealth in order for you to be happy. You may not love them at first, but after a period of time, you will. And that's just not how it works for Janny. She knows that eventually, she doesn't love this man that she first married. She knows that. And then she moves on to the second one, thinking that he's going to be better because he's more rascal. He's more, I am here, I'm fierce, and you're going to love me, and I'm a bad boy. And she knows after a while, he gets old, he gets rustic, and he starts getting more insecure about his body and his age. And then she looks for someone who isn't that, who's younger than her. And then that goes on, and then her last man, Tea Cake, we love a good tea cake, okay? He ends up becoming such a bad influence, gambling, just breaking down Janny's trust over and over and over again. So with the storm, it kind of helps, her wash away that blindness that blinded her, that blindness of I love him and I'm going to, do this. And, sadly, when she murdered Tea Cake, sadly, it just opened her eyes, and she knows that, it's probably best for her to focus on her individualness, or her individuality, and we just go throughout the text, and it really makes me realize that this was such a strong a strong change of perspective, especially in the time that this text was written. For a black woman, enslaved, a newly freed black woman, when it comes to the mind, not necessarily just because of slavery, being able to focus on how she feels as a person, and how like, doing this and going from one man, from one relationship to the other, and change in status and everything, and affects her more instead of a man or a person who or a white person. It's focusing on the perspective of a black woman in that time period. And I believe that is honestly one of the best things that could have happened in that time of history, especially when this text was written back in the early 1930s. And this is the same time of, where, things like that were like, not as, expected to be written about. So I really love this story, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye.